Okay, so last month I made around 6 grand. The month before, I barely made £1,500. And I'm sure the numbers will look different for you, but if you're self-employed, you'll recognize this pattern immediately. And there are 4.4 million of us in the UK, and right now more than half are on track to retire in poverty. And not because we don't necessarily earn enough, but because almost every mainstream investing system was built for people with a payslip, and we don't have one. So that's what this video is about. It's not a generic beginner's guide to investing. Instead, I'm gonna walk you through the 4-step volatility-proof system that I use to invest when my income looks less like this and more like a heart rate monitor. So there's a study that I think every self-employed person should know about. So research from Harvard, the Harvard Kennedy School, shows that income volatility doesn't just create cash flow problems, it actually rewires how you make financial decisions. So when your income is unpredictable, you become more financially impatient. You start favoring money now over money later. And not because you're irresponsible, but because your brain is genuinely managing risk. When you can't predict what's coming next month, investing or locking away for the long term feels dangerous. And the feast and famine cycle only makes this worse. Because if I have a good month, I feel flush. I'm like Jordan Belfort. I relax on my imaginary yacht. I tell myself it's time to start investing, and I might even put some money into my kid's ISA. But then on the flip side, if I have a bad month, I'm just happy to have some money coming in, let alone putting it aside for my daughter. And this cycle just keeps repeating. Good month, bad month, good month, bad month. And of course, nothing actually ever gets invested. And that's why even self-employed people who earn a decent living actually end up investing almost nothing. So the solution isn't more money. It's about building a system that works with how your brain actually behaves. And that starts with solving a very important problem. How much cash do you actually need to hold back when you don't know what's coming next month? Most generic advice says you need 3 months of essential expenses, but for irregular income, many financial planners recommend 6. And the data on this is pretty shocking. Over a third of all self-employed people in the UK, roughly 1.5 million, have less than 3 months of savings to live on. And even worse, 11% have none at all. That resilience gap is exactly why people end up raiding their long-term investments the second they have a quiet month. And that's bad because it not only breaks the habit of investing, but it also kills your compounding. So before anything else gets invested, I fund and maintain a 6-month buffer in an instant access savings account. I have a website, depositscout.com. It's totally free, and there you can find the best savings accounts available. Just filter for easy access. I never get anything complex here. You just need an account where you can park some money and access it whenever you need. And personally, I wouldn't open an investment portfolio until I'd funded that account with 6 months of expenses, because for me, this is the foundation that stops the whole system from collapsing and makes everything else I'm going to show you now possible. Now this is where the investing begins, and the single most important decision is not going to be how much, it's what percentage. Because a percentage amount scales with your income automatically. Good month, more goes in, quiet month, less. And the system never asks you to invest money that you don't have. I use 10%, it's easy to calculate, small enough that it doesn't hurt me when my income dips, and still meaningful enough to compound over time. Now, how this works for you is going to depend on how you're set up. Because if you run a limited company like I do, the investment percentage will come out of what you pay yourself. So my company receives income, I set aside a percentage for HMRC, then pay myself through salary and dividends, and that's where the 10% will come from. So it's money that I'm choosing to invest rather than spend. Now, if you're a sole trader, your business income is your personal income, and it should cover your essentials. So once you've set aside expenses and any tax liability, your investment percentage would then come from whatever is left. And look, if you have a surplus left over each month, you can increase that percentage. But I like to keep it at 10 because I want it to remain consistent. You know, I don't want to bump it up to 25 one month when I'm feeling cocky and then have to pull it back desperately to 5% when things dry up. And when it comes to investing my 10%, I personally use Trading 212. I actually have a pie that I built myself with ETFs and specific equities or companies that I like. And once I've worked out my monthly split, so my expenses, my taxes, and then my percentage, I transfer the 10% across to Trading 212 and invest it. I also have a Trading 212 affiliate link if you want to support the channel. That's in the description box. It's labeled as a sponsored link. So if you are planning to sign up and give this percentage-based system a go, then using it costs you nothing and helps support the channel. Thank you. Now, steps 1 and 2 are the system. The buffer and the percentage approach keep you investing consistently regardless of what your income does. And if you're already doing this, then congratulations, because you're actually already ahead of 44% of self-employed people who aren't saving for later life. But once that's running, there's a separate question worth asking. Are you investing in the most tax efficient way possible? Because for most self-employed people, and up until recently, me included, the answer is no. So once you're investing your percentage from post-tax income, there's another way you can invest your pre-tax income, and the difference is enormous. It's called a pension, which I appreciate isn't a new concept, but the tax advantages for the self-employed are worth paying attention to. So if you're a sole trader, every £100 you put into a pension only costs £80 because the government automatically tops it up with 20% tax relief. And if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you can claim an additional 20% through self-assessment, bringing that same £100 contribution down to just £60. But if you run a limited company like me, it gets even better. Rather than paying yourself more salary or dividends to cover a pension and invest it personally, you can contribute directly from your company's pre-tax profits as a business expense. That means no corporation tax on it. So depending on your business profits, that could be between 19 and 25%, meaning a contribution of £10,000 could save between £1,900 and £2,500 in corporation tax. That's money that would otherwise just go to HMRC, but instead it's going towards your retirement. Now, the way I personally do this is through a SIP, a self-invested personal pension. It's really easy to open one, and your company makes contributions directly into it as a business expense, and then you can choose how it's invested. It literally just takes a few minutes to set up, and you can just pay directly with your business card. But here's the part that's specifically powerful for people with a regular income. Have you heard of carry forward? So if you haven't used your full pension allowance in the previous 3 tax years, you can roll that unused allowance into the current year, and the annual allowance is 60 grand. So if you've contributed nothing for the past 3 years, you could potentially contribute up to £240,000 depending on your earnings and pension history. But think about what that means for self-employed income. Okay, say you have 3 quiet years where you couldn't afford to put much away, followed by a strong year. You can then deploy that entire surplus into a pension in one go and wipe out a significant chunk of your tax bill. And it's not a loophole, it's just the system, which unfortunately a lot of self-employed people aren't aware of. The final step, it's a short one, but it really does matter because everything we've covered so far handles your standard income. But what happens when a genuinely large payment lands, like a big contract or just something outside your normal range? The way I handle it is simple, and it doesn't happen very often. But because I run a limited company, HMRC gets their slice, and I make sure to set aside anything I need for expenses. And if I was a sole trader, I'd do the same thing. Then I split it 3 ways. A third goes to topping up the buffer if it needs it. A third gets invested, and a third I spend without guilt. And look, because we're not using the percentage approach, it does have to be a genuinely big payment and not just a decent month. So we have a cash buffer, a percentage system that scales with your earnings, a pension so every pound goes further, and a plan for when a big payment lands. 4 steps. None of them complicated, and all of them designed for how self-employed income actually works. So if you found this video useful, please give it a like. That really does help more people find it. And then let me know in the comments as well, where are you at? Are you also self-employed and trying to figure this out? Or do you already have something in place? How do you manage saving and investing with a volatile income? I'd love to hear from you. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.